Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Diversity and Humanity Virtual Summit. I am your host, Kayleigh O'Keefe, the founder of Soul Excellence Publishing, and I could not be more excited to kick off our round of interviews with the best-selling author of the book, The Diversity and Humanity, author of the chapter, It's a Woman's World, Marcella Gravelese. Marcella, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And just when you announced me, that's amazing. Best-selling author. I love it. I love the ring to that. Never thought I'd be able to accomplish that, but amazing. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And we both have our book here. We'll hold
Yes.
it up. It feels so good to hold it in our hands now. And you're right, best-selling author does have a nice ring to it. And we just add it to your list of accolades. You are an award-winning business leader, a healthcare and business executive with over 20 years experience with degrees from Michigan State and Harvard. So we're just adding to the list here. Of course, you are now a best-selling author. And I'd love to kick us off because we're going to go into your story, into your chapter. But just for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about the work that you do today.
So I work for an amazing organization. It's a very large non-for-profit health system in South Florida. I have an amazing team, and we manage multiple practices and provide care for about 1.4 million patients throughout Palm Beach County and all the way in down to the Keys with Broward, Miami-Dade, and of course the Keys. And so I'm the vice president of operations of our health system for our medical group. And so it's a passion of mine. Healthcare has always been a passion of mine. Medicine has been a passion of mine. I love what I do, but of course, I truly believe you're only as good as your team. I have such an amazing team. I've relocated to South Florida about 20 years ago, and I have now employees and colleagues of mine that have they've become family over the years, and so they followed me to multiple ideas and entrepreneurship things that I've set out for, and I'm just honored to be able to participate and be able to lead as a Latina woman originally from Detroit, Michigan. I pride myself on that. And my upbringing is not an upbringing that someone would be leading a health system as a vice president of operations or have accomplished the things I've accomplished. So I'm just grateful and I feel very blessed.
And that's really where I want to open up our conversation because, sitting here before us, we see this super strong, super powerful feminine leader of this major health system with an incredible team supporting you and surrounding you. You give so much to them, they give so much to you. But as you shared, it hasn't always been this way. And in fact, it almost seems it would be impossible from your early upbringing to find you in the position that you are in now. So you write about it in your chapter, and I'd love for you to share with us here a little bit more about your early upbringing in inner city Detroit and some of the early influences that shaped this journey that you've now been on.
Yeah, so born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I was actually born on the east side of Detroit, and my parents relocated to Southwest Detroit, which Detroit, as you know, is back in those times was a very impoverished city. But when you're growing up in a city like that, you don't know that you actually live in the ghetto because you don't know any difference, right? All the kids on the block and all the kids in your school, everyone is from the same upbringing. So you have no idea. And so I didn't actually realize that we were considered low income until I ventured off into the suburbs. And then I realized, wow, how amazing, what they have at their schools. I played sports. And so I got to go and compete against other schools, and I saw tennis and water polo and golf, sports that I just didn't have available to me in the inner city. Most of the private schools provided that, but none of the public schools actually provided that. And so, growing up in Detroit is an amazing opportunity and experience. I would never, ever regret that, or I love the opportunity. I actually still have family there. It's my true heart. It's the love of my life. I love South Florida. I love the weather. But Detroit is always going to be home to me, and I'm grateful for the experience. I don't look at it as a, that I grew up in the inner city ghetto. I actually believe it's defined who I am as a woman and just as a person individually. It's kept me true to my roots. It keeps you grounded and humble. So no matter what you achieve in life, you always remember where you come from. And I do try to give back. I have so much family. My actually big brother still lives there in the home we grew up in. He purchased it after my father passed away. And so, we're just a very close family, and we love and support one another. And I'm just, grateful for the experience I've had throughout my life. I've had some really great mentors. I went to early childhood. I went to an elementary called Mark Twain, and it's on the southwest side. It's by Schaefer, actually. Those of you who are from Detroit and know that area. So that is the elementary I went to, and I was actually safety patrol growing up. So I've always kind of been a little bit of a nerd and a rule follower, I guess you'd say. I was very much a tomboy, and Mr. Edgecombe was my actual not only teacher, but he was also the head of safety patrol. And this is a time where they could actually spank children in school. So believe me, I didn't make any mistakes with Mr. Edgecombe. And so I was so honored to earn my safety patrol badge. Funny story, you couldn't tell me anything. I was such a rule follower. I mean, I was that kid that like, stop, that you would laugh at. That was me. And I was honored. I've always been honored I take pride in anything I'm assigned to do or required to do or asked to do. I want to give 110%, and I'm grateful that even throughout my life, as I've evolved as a woman, the people that I interact with and gravitated towards are very similar. We have the same drive and passion. I'm very much an alpha female. And so, my friends, colleagues, we're all, individuals who are persevering and driving. We don't look at the cup, half empty. We definitely look at it as half full. And that's who I define myself as. Now, listen, every day is not perfect. You have some days that are challenging, but I do think it's a mindset and the way you look at life. And so I try to keep people around me that have that same philosophy on life, because you have to have a good support network, especially when you work in very challenging, high stressful positions, whether you're man or woman. You have to have that network to just say, I need someone to talk to, or, I had a moment today and I just, need that shoulder. So your support network is ideal. And then you have to have a balance, right? You also have to find outlets for yourself that are healthy, to provide the ability for you to perform at such a high level at a high stage. So that's my upbringing in Detroit. And as I branched out, of course, I came along after my father died, and I had a mentor, Dr. Nabil Al-Sanadi, who was a phenomenal leader. He too has passed away, and he took me under his wing, excuse me, and really, was kind of like a second father to me, helped me evolve, taught me about healthcare and leadership, and a remarkable person. He led the actually number one largest non-for-profit health system in South Florida for many, many years, which is the 10th largest district. And so I have been very fortunate to work around individuals or gravitate towards. And I'm a sponge, I want to learn. So I've never been afraid of hard work, and that's just who I am.
Well, there's so many reasons you and I have connected, and like now I'm uncovering even more as you're sharing. I'm imagining you with the little safety patrol badge, and I was not in safety patrol, but like Mr. Tomich in the 5th grade had something called the Excellence Book that he showed us at the beginning of the year. And he's like, yeah, see how many times you can sign this book, and you can sign it for good grades, for good behavior, for all sorts of things. And so I was like, okay, challenge accepted. I am going to sign this excellence book the most times. And like you, of course I did, right? Because like that's how I am too, is like I have pride, I have that energy as well. And I just love hearing your, I don't know, the way that you've reflected on your past in a way that's super empowering to the journey that you've been on and what you also hope to inspire others to really believe in for themselves, which I really admire.
Thank
Um,
you.
I want to ask you, you talk in your chapter, and I just think it's so relevant to this overall conversation around the diversity in humanity. And you speak about almost the subliminal messages or the generational messages that we receive specifically as women. And some are helpful, but a lot of them are also harmful. And so I'd love to hear, sort of, as you reflected on your journey in this chapter, some of the messages that you realized, wait a second, I actually don't think I want to believe that for myself. So let's talk about those.
Yeah, so as I said, I started off with Mr. Edgecombe and I was a safety patrol. So I always wanted to be at the same level or platform as the boys. I was an overachiever. I was a pretty good athlete. And so with that, I wanted to compete against boys because I felt like if I could beat a boy. And so early childhood, it was always told to me, be more ladylike, don't act like a boy. And so, you're too bossy, things of that nature. And I don't think it was told to me as an insult. It was more to develop the feminine side of me.
Mm,
But how a young girl interprets that is much different, right? You interpret it the way you hear it, not necessarily the way your parents or your grandparents or aunt and uncles or teachers explain that to you, right? Your perception is what you hear, just as adults.
mhm.
But kids were such an impressionable age, and so it was kind of programmed into my DNA that you have to be ladylike and you have to be feminine. You have to, and you couldn't possess this kind of superhero alpha female persona, right? But
Uh-huh.
that was kind of my natural. So I
Yeah.
always felt like I had to diminish my light and kind of live in this masked person who, I just was not. But I did a good job living in that mask for many years until I realized that I wasn't living an authentic life.
Mm,
And that's when I decided that I'm going to be proud who I am. I'm going to make mistakes. We all have flaws, and that's how we evolve. I think that's the beautiful thing about life. And it's not about the destination, it's really about the journey. And so I really, really looked at myself in a different light. And I think we evolve, right? We evolve as women, we go through certain things in life that changes who we are, whether that's professionally or personally. I think you start to evolve and you find what the stereotype you believed in prior is actually not who you are or what you represent anymore. You probably never represented that. You just had that instilled in you. And so growing up in Detroit, college was never a typical kind of subject matter in my home. And it was always, you're either going to go to the military, you're going to get a job, or you're going to meet a nice boy, comes from a very affluent family, or
mhm.
his parents, his dad's a teacher, or his dad's a dentist, or his dad's a doctor.
Yeah.
Never heard much about the mom, and so I wanted to change the stereotype.
Mm,
I wanted to be different, and I felt like different was okay. But society tells us often that different is not okay. And when I mean, think about it. When we're in high school and college, we think we're adults. We think we know everything, right? I thought I knew everything in my 20s and 30s. I think I know everything now, but I know that I don't, right? I'm in my mid 40s and I'm still evolving as a woman, as a leader, as a professional, middle careerist, or even expert careerist, however you see yourself. And I just think there's so many generational DNA kind of information that are provided to women that's kind of woven in our DNA that
mm,
I think we need to change. And I hope that my chapter provides women that opportunity to hear my voice. Obviously, it's from my perspective. I don't think everyone has this perspective. I understand that. But those women who do have this, it's okay to be you. It's okay to be authentic. And believe it or not, you're more accepted because everyone can see when you're putting on a facade. You don't think they can, but they actually can.
Mm. There's so much resonance that happens when we show up authentically, that suddenly the people that are attracted to us, the things that we start to notice, it's like the world completely changes when we choose to step into alignment with who we are. And like you said, that is ever evolving, that can change. Like so often we don't give ourselves permission to say, okay, I realize I acted that way yesterday and I viewed myself like this even just yesterday, but today I am making a different choice. And I'm questioning a belief that I had that sort of had me stuck, maybe acting in a certain way that wasn't serving who I am. And so
Exactly.
it's very conscious, like this work though is very conscious. And I feel like a lot of the conversations around diversity, like are still kind of happening at like an autopilot, automatic, reactive level, and not from this like, ooh, let's take a breath and come back to consciousness and awareness. And as you say, authenticity.
Yeah, and it's writing this chapter was so therapeutic, right? Because it's a vulnerable experience. I'm
Yeah.
taking off the mask. Having accomplished becoming an officer at the age of 31, I wasn't afraid to be put back. It was kind of, I wanted to be accepted. So I was afraid that they wouldn't accept me, knowing that I was from the inner city ghetto and I was Latina. So I kind of hid behind this persona that just wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I found myself learning how to skeet shoot and golf and to fit in with the good old boys. And
Yeah.
although I love golf today, that is something that I've picked up and I've enjoyed. But that was not something that I took pride in. It just wasn't who I was or defined myself as a woman. And I think there's so much that women bring to the table in any role. I do believe, I'm a firm believer, there's a reason that we raise half of the world and we are half of the workforce. So I do think we have a seat at the table, and I want to make sure that every little girl who's bossy or who is the safety patrol realizes that, they can dream and it's whatever they want to achieve in life is truly up to them. It's not where you've come from, doesn't define you. It's always who you are at the root, but we can evolve. We can evolve and we can grow and learn together. And I think that women, as I was climbing up the career ladder, were often the most challenging with me. They were the least supportive. I think it was viewed from my perspective, the way I understood it was really just that we're trying so hard to compete against the man in a leadership role, and there's not many women at executive positions. And grateful for the organization I work for, we have tons, and that's part of the reason why I actually joined this health system. But many, companies across the U.S., there are not women at the seat of the table in C-suites or executive positions, and it's primarily men. And I think that when a woman does achieve that honor, and there's an up and coming woman, they're not as supportive. Um,
Mm.
and so I found myself that, in those situations. And so I want to give back. I want to provide that to everyone. I want to teach both men and women who come from a similar background how to negotiate their first offer, their contract. It was embedded in my head. Just work hard, perform. Your work will speak for itself. But unfortunately, that didn't take place for me.
Yeah.
So
That
it was
myth.
a rude awakening to find out that, I was the lowest paid officer and I was a woman. And so you feel deceived, you feel kind of wronged, but then you realize that it's no one's fault but my own. I have to be the advocate for me. And so I want to teach other women how to make similar, steps, but in the right direction, how to create generational wealth for their family, where they can choose who they decide to work with or, marry or become engaged to or partner with. I just think that there's so much women bring to the table. I do believe our male counterparts are equally important. I think there's a reason why you want to have an entire team. People come from all walks of life and we can learn together. And I think that makes a dynamic team. And that's what I pride myself on. That's what I have in my current platform right now today in my current health system. And I'm really grateful. I'm just very honored and grateful for this opportunity.
Mm. When you were sharing about your experience with women in the workplace, I think that's a pretty common theme for women in corporate climbing the ladder. And I think that speaks to this sort of like generational or embedded or intrinsic thing too, that we're yearning to break free from, this idea that women are in constant competition. Like if we look back evolutionarily, like in constant competition for the man, for the resources. And so it's like, that is sort of baked into the cake. And we're like, wait a second, we can't bring that baggage for where we're going next. We have to focus on like the only competition is within. It's being the best safety patrol. It's then being the best board member. It's being the best leader that each person can be. And then of course, collaborating and supporting. And really, I think the diversity and humanity, the message here is too, is like, when I rise, you rise. When you rise, I rise. And like, the more if we were like to choose to believe that, like I see your success and it's like, oh, that means it's possible for me, versus like, oh, I can't have that now because she has that. Like that's the stuff that can't exist anymore for where we're trying to go, this vision of more harmony, this vision of more wholeness. And I feel like that's really what you embody and what you're expressing in your message here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think leading with love and making sure your inner circle, you guys are all cheerleaders for one another. I have some fabulous friends who are very accomplished, and we all support one another. It's important, right? Because everyone brings something to the table. We are all so unique. And I think everyone is extremely special, and it's bringing that positivity, bringing that love and light and compassion out of them, and it took me many years. I've had many pitfalls, and I was not at all shy of any challenges, and I'm still learning how to support my team, support my family, support my friends in the appropriate manner, and just be there also. But I believe that relationships are very much, you can't have a one-sided relationship. If I feel like when you are, whether it's professional or personal, you have to have deposits and withdrawals. It can't just be all withdrawals. So oftentimes, we work for organizations, or we have personal relationships with folks where they're constantly withdrawing from us but not making any deposits. And I think that's a true, I think that's something that you need as an individual. I know that's what I myself need. I can't give my all to everybody and deplete me. I have to also have someone that's there to deposit within me. And you get that from all walks of life. And I think it's important to know when you need that, you feel that feeling within you, and you go and you try to obtain that. But by having a good support network, a good team of folks who are there for you, they'll recognize when you have those moments where you need a deposit, right? But when you're climbing up that career ladder, you're so quick to give your all, and then you find yourself in a position where you're not happy with your career, you're not happy with who you've evolved to, and you're living this imposter syndrome life. And I found myself in that position at the age of 40 years old. And I had to really work hard and redefine who I was, and truly, authentically from the heart. Let's take the mask off, stop portraying to be someone you're not, lead with love, lead with compassion. And if it doesn't work here, guess what? It's okay. It's going to work somewhere, because happiness and compassion and empathy and love is contagious. And I'm a firm believer that when you really embody that, you're going to see like so many paths open up for you. I believe that's how we met, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
when you look back on how we met, it's just a wonderful opportunity and experience. And I believe in a higher being, and I believe that there are people placed in your life for a reason, and it's up to you, to take that opportunity full fledged and learn and evolve and grow with it. So yeah. So I just wanted to write this chapter, and obviously you were a huge inspiration since the first day we met, and learning about yourself and your background and all of the books that you've published. And I kind of, hearing from you that day, you had asked me a few times, hey, are you ready? And I finally was like, I'm ready to be vulnerable. And that's a scary moment because you worry, who's going to read this? You worry, who's online right now? Who's listening to me? But I feel almost a sense of, just a sense of happiness that I'm finally living in my true skin, whether it's accepted or not. I'm okay with that.
Mm. Wow. I mean, talk about, I don't know how else to end it, but with that beautiful sentiment. And I feel, I really feel Marcella, and where you're sharing deposits and withdrawals, like that's really what I felt in this connection with you, this experience in this book, this conversation today. And it speaks to this entire summit as being an experience of people showing up embodied, aware, awake, vulnerable, open. And I believe, like you, that this is contagious. And it's from this spirit, if we start having conversations around diversity, around equality with this energy, I'm like, what could we possibly create?
A
And
phenomenal,
so,
a phenomenal
right?
world, a phenomenal organization, a phenomenal network of people who are just like you and I. There's so many of us. I told you before we even got started, I'm nervous, right? And
Yeah.
most people wouldn't think that, but we are all still that little child from within, and we're still navigating. You could be the most talented individual, but you still have opportunity, and you're still trying to define yourself and who you are. And I think that's a beautiful thing about life, is that you continue to grow, you continue to learn, and you continue to give back, and you accept everyone for who they are. And that's what makes an amazing world, an amazing humanity, an amazing workforce.
Mhm. My friend posted something on Instagram yesterday, that some movie quote where it's like, this is how it works. You do the thing and then you get the courage. So here we are, we're doing the thing, we're publishing the book, and then you get the courage. Like, it's just not the reverse. So we do have to feel the fear. We do have to honor our inner child before we do these big, scary things. And now we come out here on the other side feeling more empowered, more feeling like we're on the right path. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. I want to encourage everyone to buy the book. It's available digital and print online right now on Amazon. Marcella, thank you so much. I appreciate you as a fellow human, a fellow woman, a fellow leader, and as a dear friend now. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm just happy to be able to be on this platform with you, and the team who has guided me throughout this process. It's been a wonderful experience, and I'm excited. I'm excited about what's to come, and I hope, please go out and purchase this book, read. There's so many fellow authors in this book. Their stories are amazing. I couldn't set the book down. I was reading and reading yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get to sleep. So exciting. It's an exciting time to be a part of such a wonderful opportunity. And just, I hope that everyone has the same compassion, and they see the greatness in this and what we're trying to do.
Mm.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at the top of the hour for another powerful conversation with Kristen. Marcella, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.